Menu is usually a topic in production within which kuna recipe. And if you realized, I did not teach the topic. I did not teach menu. I did not teach recipe for production theory. Why? Because I knew that I will cover it in menu planning, and because I'm teaching both, I cannot teach twice. I cannot teach like double. Niwafunze hapa menu, niwafunze recipe, then production theory nifunze tena. No. So because of that, you are supposed to make sure you write your short notes on recipes the same way I said about menu. Because, for example, I gave you a question in production about the advantages of cyclical menus. So that I had taught kwa menu, and those people I taught term 1 were January. You know that I covered menu, the types of menu, and there were many. There were many types of menu. So even today, as I talk about recipe, make sure you have your what? Your small to notes to help you revise for production. They'll give you knowledge on menu planning, and then they'll also give you content for answering production questions. So what is a recipe? We define what a recipe is. A recipe has got many definitions, but I'm just going to give you one definition. A recipe is a basic aid to achievement of consistent high quality food. A recipe is a basic aid to achievement of consistent high quality food. Full stop. So it is an aid. When something is an aid, a basic aid, it means it is helping you. So it is something which helps you to do what? To achieve a consistent. Consistent means similar, something which is not changing. So food of the same quality, because you are following the same ingredients, the same procedure. Now, there is something we call a standard recipe, right? That standard recipe. So we call them standard recipe. We also call them standardized recipe. Now, let's write what a standard recipe is. This is a recipe. So I've said it can be known as either it can be called either a standard recipe or a standardized recipe. Be a standard recipe or a standardized recipe. So what is a standard recipe? We write this. This is a recipe. This is a recipe which gives consistent is, I've said it is similar, which gives consistent quality and quantity it gives consistent quality and quantity of ingredients and procedure. Quality and quantity of ingredients and procedure. Full stop. Let's write another statement of a standard recipe. The ingredients must be measured, weighed. The ingredients must be measured stroke weighed to ensure the correct yield will be obtained. To ensure the correct yield will be obtained and the correct ratio between the ingredients. To ensure the correct yield will be obtained and also the correct ratio between the ingredients. Full stop. Write recipe balance. Recipe balance. I'm coming back to explain about the rest. Recipe balance. Then about it, write this. A balanced recipe is one in which the product is of a consistent quality. A balanced recipe is one in which the product is of a consistent quality. Full stop. Now, if I talk about a standard recipe and I also talk about a balanced recipe, basically I am talking about the same thing. Because if I talk about a standard recipe means what? It has been tested such that I know if I am cooking for 4 people, 4 portions, rice of 4 portions, I'm supposed to use 100 grams of rice. I've done that severally and it has been proved to be working. Then it means for me to cook for 10 people, for instance, I simply need to come back to my 4 people rice and then look at if 4 people use 100 grams, what about 10 people? So I will use basically the same recipe, but I'm going to calculate. I'm going to do some calculation, come up with a factor which I will multiply with my 10 people to be able to get the quantity that I am supposed to get. And then the procedure will not change. The procedure will remain the same. Now, when I come to recipe balance and I say it's a recipe achieved by or which gives a consistent quality. Recipe balance now is talking about the ratio of ingredients. If I'm baking a cake and we've said sugar plus margarine is equals to flour, that is the ratio. So on a particular day when I will say now flour plus sugar is equals to margarine, I am going to produce a soggy cake. I'm not going to be able to produce the standard cake that I'm supposed to produce. Now, write this subtopic. Importance of recipes in food production. Importance of recipes in food production. Now, when I say importance of recipes, that is in general. It can be importance of a basic recipe, importance of a standard recipe, just importance of any recipe. Why should we be having something to follow or to show us the ingredients and the procedure? The importance, number 1, assists in costing and planning. Assists in costing and planning. Now, the reason why it will help us in costing and planning is because a recipe has got ingredients together with their quantities. They don't just write for you. For example, if you are making spaghetti bolognese, they don't just write for you minced meat, mushroom, spaghetti, no. If it is minced meat, they'll write for you. If it is 4 portions, for instance, they write for you minced meat 500 grams, spaghetti 400 grams. So it has the quantities. Now, these quantities will help you to know how much money will you use. How much money are you going to use to how much money are you going to use to purchase or to buy your ingredients. That is why it is helping you in costing and also in planning. So number 2, now I've explained about costing. What about planning? When we are doing planning, we usually have the timed order of work. It shows us the sequence of activities. So again, when you are having the recipe is showing you the procedures, the sequence of activities, which activity will come first and which activity will follow. Importance number 2, it helps in standardization of products. It helps in standardization of products. It helps in standardization of products. What is standardization? Standardization is like uniformity. So recipes bring about uniformity. If you follow the same recipe, if I use a recipe to cook braised rice, another person uses it to cook the same braised rice, another person also, 10 people make braised rice following the same recipe step by step, we are going to produce a similar product. If everybody follows that recipe, we will produce a similar product, and that is what we are calling standardization. So it brings about standardization, or what we call uniformity of the product. The product comes out the same way. That is why when a person goes into a hotel or into a restaurant to order for something, they usually have an expectation of how that thing should look like. If it comes looking that way, they are satisfied. If it does not come looking that way, they are not satisfied. Why? Because they know how it is supposed to look like. They even know how it is supposed to taste. And that's why it is hard for a hotelier to order food from a hotel, because most of the time you will be disappointed, because you are going to be wondering why, or what has happened, what happened in that kitchen. And being that most people who sell in hotels will not expect that maybe this particular customer knows what they are ordering, or knows what is supposed to be done, or how even it is supposed to look like. So the aspect of standardization comes up when there are recipes. Now, that is all about the importance of a recipe. I leave the rest unto you. You can Google, or you can check in your previous notes whether you have additional uses of recipes. Now let's go to the other aspect, which is now majorly connected to menu planning when it comes to recipe. Formula for increasing and decreasing recipes. Formula for increasing and decreasing recipes. Formula for increasing and decreasing recipes. Now we know that every time we are supposed to plan for or cook for 15 portions. We are supposed to cook for 15 portions, but most of our books give 4 portions and 10 portions. And also other books give 4 portions, 10 portions, 25 portions. There are books which give 4 portions, 10 portions, 25 portions. So again, you find that 15 has been left out. I don't know why they've not brought a book with 15. They have a book with 25, because I hear that before they started, or before they brought module 1, module 2, module 3, there was another way of doing it. I don't know whether it was part 1 and part 2, something, or it was not modular. So that time they used to plan for 25 people. They used to cook for 25 people. That's why we have practical cookeries za kitambo zenye ziko na 25 portions. But now after that, most books have, after the modular came, they've scrapped the 25. Most of them, they are now producing 4 and 10. So I think they are yet to bring 15 portions. And because the 15 portions is not in our book, that's why we are looking at the formula for either increasing or decreasing. Because if you've been told to cook for 15 and your book is giving you 4 and 10, then how will you produce for 15? And some people make a mistake of taking, you take the 4 plus the 10, that is 14. So you start guessing. You say, I'm going to use 4 plus 10, which is 14. So 14 is not far from 15. Yes, it is not far from 15, but your figures are going to be wrong. Remember, in costing or in the marking of costing, the ingredients or your recipes are usually looked at, and then there is a calculation. The examiner will want to know, did you calculate or did you just guess? Then again, the price list will be there. They will also want to know, did you check the price list? Ukapata maziwa 1 liter inauzwa 100 bob, ama uliamua kujiwekea tu 120, 50 bob, 80 bob, anything that you wanted to put. So that's why we look at the formula, because we need to be exact. We need to know what exactly are we supposed to write. Now, we write this particular statement. The factor method is suitable. The factor method is suitable for increasing and decreasing recipes. The factor method is suitable for increasing and decreasing recipes. Full stop. It is calculated in the following way. It is calculated in the following way. Now, what is do for 15 portions? For example, when we should say that if 4 portions of rice or 4 portions of people will need 100 grams of rice, what about 10 portions? When we take 10, we divide by 4, and then we multiply by that 100 to get 250, or to get whatever that we are going to get. So what we get by dividing 10 over 4, remember 10 is what we want and 4 is what we already have. So 10 over 4 is going to give us some figure. That figure is what we call a factor, because that factor is what now we'll start multiplying by the quantity that we have to know the next quantity. So number 1, this is now the formula. Number 1, divide the desired yield by the known yield. Divide the desired yield by the known yield. So there is what you know, yenye imeandikwa hapo, either 10 portions ama 4 portions, but there is what you want, which is 15. So hapo tunaweza andika e.g. 15 divide by 4. Divide the desired yield by the known yield. Divide the desired yield by the known yield, and I've said e.g. 15 divide by 4. So umepewa 4 portions, lakini unataka kutafuta 15 portions. So unachukua 15 divide by 4. Hiyo itakupatia a factor. Number 2. Sally, I hope you've gotten me. I hope I've repeated that. So number 2, whenever possible, convert the ingredients into weights. Whenever possible, convert the ingredients into weights. Convert the ingredients into weights. Now, what is a weight? Weight ni uzito, something that can be weighed, for example, grams, kilograms, liters, milliliters. So that is a weight. But when you say 1 cup, 1 tablespoon, 1 drop, those are not weights. And why do we want weights? We want weights so that we can get some amount of money. That's why I said you cannot write salt to taste. Because what is to taste? To taste is not weight. We cannot weigh to taste. We must know what exact amount so that we can attach it to a monetary value. We can give it the price of the cost so that you can go and purchase. So you convert it into weight. That's why when you look at your practical cookery, the very first pages before you even begin to look at the menus or to start with soups, sauces and stocks, there's a part yenye imeandikwa conversions. Imekuandikia hapo conversions kama ni 1 teaspoon, 1 tablespoon, such things. Imekupatia the weight of that. It has converted them into milliliters. That's why I usually tell you I do not want to see those menus zenye zimeandikwa wheat flour 1 cup, I don't know, carrot 2 cups. Now, what is cup? What is a cup? When you do not have the exact weight, how are you going to convert that into? I know there are measuring cups. There are measuring cups sold or in the baking shops, but then they are usually specific cups. But for you, when you write wheat flour 1 cup, what you are expecting to do is what? Kwenda kwa restaurant, uombe kikombe, ukuje uchote unga. It is not that cup. There are measuring cups which are usually sold, which we do not have in our kitchen. And for this particular case, now, Mwikali, it is going to depend on which cup are you using. My cup might be different from your cup and from another person's cup. So, we must convert. Lazima tu convert zote zikuwe na weight, zikuwe na grams, zikuwe na kilograms, zikuwe na milliliters, zikuwe na liters. That is the second stage. Then number 3. Multiply the weight. Multiply the weight by the factor. Multiply the weight by the factor. Now remember, the factor is what we did in number 1. Tukasema e.g. 15 divided by 4. Multiply the weight by the factor, and this will give you the adjusted weight. Multiply the weight by the factor, and this will give you the adjusted weight. Full stop. E.g., let's do an example. E.g., 100 grams of rice, 100 grams of rice will yield 4 portions. 100 grams of rice will yield 4 portions. How many grams will yield 15 portions? 100 grams of rice will yield 4 portions. How many grams will yield 15 portions? So when we follow our procedure, number 1 will be taking 15 divided by 4. So do that. So 15 over 4. Then number 2, we've said we convert the ingredients into weights. In our case here, there is nothing to convert. Ziko already in grams. So here we have nothing to convert. So the other step we are going to take 100 grams, we multiply by what you've gotten. The factor yenye umepata 15/4. Whatever you've gotten, multiply by 100. And then you tell me what you've gotten. So that will be the answer now. For 15 portions, that is the grams of rice. And that is just an example. So how many grams have you gotten for 15 portions? (15/4), then you can multiply by 100. Yes, 375 grams. Yes, yes, that is correct. That is what you are supposed to get. That is what you are supposed to get. So make sure you've gotten 375. So we said you work from what you know. So you've been asked for 15, but you've been given 4. So you take the 15, divide by that 4. Then now multiply by the grams which you've been given there. It is going to give you, if you needed for more people, it will give you a higher. If you needed for less people, we can also do the same with less people. Let's have another example. Example number 2. Example number 2. 200 grams of sugar. 200 grams of sugar will yield 15 portions. 200 grams of sugar will yield 15 portions. Hiyo ni kwa mfano kama ni kwa coffee. So 200 grams of sugar will yield 15 portions. How many grams of sugar will yield 4 portions? How many grams of sugar will yield 4 portions? Now remember here, we are looking at a lower amount of sugar. So 200 grams ni watu 15. So what about 4 people? So again, the desired divide by the known. So we take now 4 divide by 15. It is now 4/15. It is now the other way around because tunataka less. Tunataka 4 and we know 15. So 4 divide by 15. Whatever factor you get now, multiply by 200 grams and then tell me what you've gotten. 4 divide by 15. Then multiply by 200. Yes, 53.3 grams. So as you can see, 200 grams zilikuwa za watu 15. So kama ni 4 people, inaenda ikipungua. So that is a formula of either increasing or decreasing. So the major thing to know here, so 53.4, 53.3. So it means it's around there. Either there are people who've rounded off, others have not rounded off, but it is the correct figure. So in other words, as you can see from that formula, it is just a formula of helping us know how to either increase our recipe or decrease our recipe, the quantity, without changing the what? The quality and the procedure. So the quality is not going to change. What is going to change is the amount of ingredients to use. But the procedure remains the same. The ratio of ingredients will remain the same because kama tumeconvert sugar, tutaconvert pia. Yes, rounding off is allowed. Not allowed like, okay, you can have the cents. You can have 53 shillings, 0.35 cents, something like that, like of sort. So 53 shillings with 30 cents, 53 shillings with 35 cents, that is allowed. So now, as you can see from our formula, we are going to increase the quantity or decrease the quantity without tampering with any ingredient. Kila ingredient tuna calculate, kama zilikuwa zina increase, zote tuna increase. So ile ratio inabaki vile ilikuwa, just that zime increase. Kama ni kuzipunguza, tunazipunguza zote. If it is coffee, we are reducing the sugar, we are also reducing the the coffee and we'll also reduce the milk. Kama ni rice, tuta increase rice, tuta increase our stock, tuta increase kitungu, everything we are going to increase. So we are not going to tamper with the quality. What we are going to tamper with is the quantity, and the procedure will remain the same. That's why we'll call that recipe a standard recipe, because whether we increase it or decrease it, it gives us a consistent quality of product. Now, write a subtopic. Essential points to be considered. No, to be recorded, not considered. Essential points to be recorded in a standard recipe. Essential points to be recorded in a standard recipe. So how do you know that a recipe is standard? And a good example of standard recipe is all the recipes that you have in the practical cookery. Now let's write those points so that you can know that those are standard recipes. And most of the recipes that you get from the internet are not standard recipes. So what distinguishes a standard recipe from another recipe which is not standard? Number one, name of the item. Name of the item. So when, for example, when we say, this is our menu for this week, go and write the recipes. If, for example, we have a starter yenye inaitwa puree of tomato soup ama inaitwa puree of carrot soup, ukienda kwa practical cookery, you'll not just go and look for any puree soup. You'll find that particular recipe with a name. So the name of the item. Number two, the quality and quantity of each ingredient required. The quality and quantity of each ingredient required. Now, quantity najua mnaelewa, if it's written eggs 2 pieces. What about quality? Now, we have those ingredients zenye you can find them fresh, you can find them dry. For example, kama ni parsley, unaweza pata fresh parsley na hapo unapataga umeandikwa kwa recipe parsley 1 bunch. And then we usually have recipe yenye ni dried, yenye kwa mkebe, yenye tunabai kwa supermarket pamoja na zile herbs, other herbs and spices. Hapo utapata umeandikiwa parsley maybe 100 grams. So if it is in grams, inamaanisha that is the quality. It is the dried recipe. If it is in bunch, it is the fresh recipe. So when we say quality, that is what we mean. Then quantity. Lazima ikuwe imeandikwa, is it 100 grams? Is it 50 grams? Is it 1 liter? Is it 100 milliliters? That is the quantity. Number 3, the total cost and cost per portion. The total cost and cost per portion. Now, this is where planning comes in. Total cost and cost per portion. And now that this has come in here, let me say this. Tukifanya costing, that is usually the cost, not the price. So, we do our costing pale kwa costing sheet up to the end. We get the total amount of cost. That is how much it will cost us to buy those ingredients. Now, some of you usually come back to the menu and then you write it there. For example, let's say huko nyuma umepata 1200. Some people come back to where they wrote the menu wanaandika hiyo 1200 hapo kama selling price. Some other people will calculate very well. 1200 divided by 15 portions, you get cost per portion. Then ukiipata, instead of writing it as cost, ukirudi pale kwa menu, huwa mnaiandika kama price. Usually write it like price, which is not supposed to be so. So if at all you are coming back to write the cost, Like just write it 100. 100 like that. Usiandike like it is the selling price that we are going to have, like how most of you write like that. So just write it 100 and circle it or leave it there. Menu. That is cost, not price, because most of you write it there with the mentality of, and now remember, if you write it like that, na mtu wa service anakuja kuchukua, it's like you are telling them sell this menu at 100 shillings or the customer should pay 100 shillings. No, that is not what the customer is supposed to do. Now, you can get a question for food production theory, which is telling you this was the cost of the menu. Calculate the selling price. Now, how do you know the selling price? I will get to that. Bado sijafika hapo. I'm still going to get to that. But for you to be able to calculate the selling price, you must have been given the percentage of the cost. Lazima ukuwe umeambiwa if the cost of the menu is, for example, 20%, then calculate the selling price. Sasa hapo ndio utakuja useme if 30% is equals to ile pesa umepata pale 1200 divided by 15, whatever you've gotten. What about 100%? So calculate 100%, now you are going to get the what? The selling price. But when it is just open like that, you're supposed to do the costing. Please just do the costing, leave alone the selling price or how much we sell the menu. Now, the other point number 4, the essential points to be recorded in a standard recipe. Point number 4, the full details of the method of preparation. The full details of the method of preparation. So when we say the full details of the method of preparation, now that is the procedure. From step number 1, where do you begin? If I'm making white stock, where am I beginning? From step number 1 all the way to the last step. That is what full details means. Then the other point number 5, the yield and the unit of preparation. The yield and the unit of preparation. Yield is how many people are we cooking for? Is it 4 portions? Is it 10 portions? Is it 15 portions? Is it 25 portions? Then unit of preparation. Unit is like, we are now back to like the quantity. Is it grams? Is it milliliters? Is it liters? What exactly is the quantity or the unit that we are using? Are we using liters? Are we using... And that's why pale kwa price list unapataga unit of purchase. Now, let's do an example of a recipe. So write e.g. beef stroganoff, and I'm giving you this as an assignment, your own assignment, an assignment which I will not check. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to leave a space. Then after we are done with class, utaenda kwa practical cookery, tafuta recipe ya beef stroganoff. Uiandike vile tunaandika kwa recipe card. Uandike hapo juu beef stroganoff. Ingredients. Kwa book kuna 4 portions na 10 portions. Write both. Andika 4 portions, one column, 10 portions, another column. Then now you start writing the ingredients. Beef, ama fillet of beef, whatever which is written kwa recipe. Kwa 4 portions, write the quantity. Kwa 10 portions, write the quantity. All the way mpaka mwisho, mpaka kwa parsley or whatever is in the mwisho. After that, method of preparation. Ile recipe imeandikwa from number 1 all the way to the last step. Now that will be your example of a standardized recipe. Now, leave that space and let's have a subtopic. Standard yield. Standard yield. Standard yield. Standard yield. Now we write this. This is the usable part. Now remember, I have said the things that I'm talking about here, I'm teaching them in menu planning, and I'm teaching because they are supposed to be there. First of all, you should know what they are. But when we go to production, you should also have the content of what they are and what happens to them. That's why for production, you can get an entire question of define a standard recipe, define a standard yield, define standard portion size, define standard portion cost. So these things that I'm defining and I need you to write is because I know that you will require them in production theory. So standard yield, this is the usable part. This is the usable part of a product after the initial preparation. This is the usable part of a product after the initial preparation. Another definition, it is the net weight. It is the net weight or volume of food item. It is the net weight or volume of food item after it has been processed and made ready. After the product has been processed and made ready. The last statement about standard yield before I explain about it. This is the weight of the edible, no, don't write this is the weight. Just write this, the weight of the edible portion. The weight of the edible portion is less than the weight of the raw material. The weight of the edible portion is less than the weight of the raw material, comma, in certain cases, this loss is known as production loss. In certain cases, this loss is known as production loss. I want you to underline production loss. I have said the weight of edible portion is less than the weight of the raw material, comma, the weight of edible portion is less than the weight of the raw material, comma, in certain cases, this loss is known as production loss. In certain cases, this loss is known as production loss, and I've said underline production loss. So what is standard yield? Standard yield is the volume of the final food item. For example, let's say unapika roast beef. Kama unapika roast beef, utachukua beef, you will utatoa ice. After that, you are going to trim. Remember, kama ilikuwa 2 kgs, ilipimwa pamoja na weight ya nini? Ya hiyo mafuta una trim. After that, utaweka kwa oven. When you look at roast beef ama any roast meat, huwa ina shrink. Ina shrink kwa nini? because it is losing some of its moisture. Ikipimwa ile maji yake, the moisture in that meat ilikuwa pia part of the weight. So it simply means kama utachukua hiyo nyama upime hata kwa weighing scale, hautapata the weight. Kama ilikuwa 2 kgs utapata imepungua, it is no longer 2 kilograms. So that is what we are calling standard yield, like how much is produced after the preparation and cooking. And we are saying the loss, hiyo weight imepotea. Let's say for example nyama ilikuwa 2 kgs, by the time you are serving it iko let's say 1.7 kgs. Ile 300 grams yenye imepotea hapo katikati, we are calling it production loss. Production loss. So you can get a question telling you to define production loss. Production loss. So what is production loss? Production loss is the weight lost during preparation. The weight of food that is lost during preparation. That is why the edible portion will be less than the raw one, the raw material. Ulinunua nyama kilo 2, ukaroast, ukaserve. By the time una serve, it is 1 kilogram and 700 grams. It is no longer. Because of what? Because of production loss. So production loss has occurred either from trimming plus cooking plus many other things. Now, let's define something else. Standard portion size. Standard portion size. Standard portion size. Now, in the kitchen, when we are serving, we usually have our serving spoon. Now here I'm going to talk about the portioning equipment. When we are planning, I usually say that at the end, ukimaliza timed order of work, hapo chini, you're supposed to write the portioning equipment. What are portioning equipment? Portioning equipment are those equipment that you are going to use to portion your food. Umesema I'm cooking for 15 portions. So during presentation, we want to see the individual 15 portions. Kama ni soup, consomme soup, we want to see consomme cups, 15 of them zikiwa na hiyo soup. Kama ni bread roll, we want to see those bread rolls, the 15 of them individually zikiwa kwa individual bread baskets. Kama ni rice, we want to see 15 portions of rice. Na tutaki rice kama imerushwa hapo kwa plata. No, we want to see individually molded, shaped 15 portions of rice. That's why when you talk about portioning equipment, we'll be mentioning things like a soup ladle, a sauce ladle, a serving spoon, a tongue. Kama uko na chapati, uko na salad, you're supposed to use a tongue. Now, there is something I saw when I was looking at your plan this last week, from last week all the way up to yesterday. I realized that some of you attached for me, if you can remember, we did a topic known as kitchen equipment. And you can large equipment, small equipment, mechanical equipment. Some of you attached for me that assignment after the timed order of work. Now I meet kitchen equipment, the entire document, kitchen equipment. No, that is not what you are supposed to do. Remember, portioning equipment goes hand in hand with your menu. Now, in case you want to make it easier, now, this is what you will be doing. Ukiandika hapo portioning equipment, you go back to your menu. Fanya vile unafanyaga costing. Kama starter yako ilikuwa cream of spinach soup, write for me there, cream of spinach soup. The other column is the equipment. Niandikia hapo soup ladle. Then the quantity 1. Unataka soup ladle moja ya kuserve nini? Ya kuserve cream of spinach soup. Your next item ni beef stew. Andika hapo beef stew. Serving spoon 1. Unataka serving spoon moja ya kuserve beef stew. Tuendelee. Carrot chapati. Tongue 1 pair. Now I know you need 1 pair of tongue ya kuserve chapati. Next, Creamed spinach, serving spoon, 1. We know that you need 1 serving spoon ya kuserve creamed spinach. Ukiendelea hivyo. Now you have a cake. What are you going to use to serve a cake? You can write either palette knife, you can write a tongue again. Tongue, 1 pair ya kuserve nini? Ya kuserve keki. Aya, uko na coffee. You need a flask. It's right there. Coffee with milk. Write coffee pot, milk jar. So coffee pot moja, milk jar moja za kuserve nini? Coffee na milk. Or you can simply ask for a flask. Andika hapo flask 2. Tunajua moja ni ya coffee, ingine ni ya maziwa. So don't just write any kitchen equipment there because we said you write kitchen equipment. No, you write kitchen equipment that are relevant to your menu. What will you use to serve each item or to portion each item of your menu? So now let's write this about the standard portion size. We know that a portion is the amount of food that you are going to serve one person. Now, write this. This presents the number of grams of food. This presents the number of grams of food. The number of grams of food item to be served to the customers. This presents the number of grams of food item to be served to customers. This presents the number of grams of food item to be served to customers in relation to food cost. In relation to food cost and the selling price of the item. Standard portion size. This presents the number of grams of food item to be served to customers in relation to food cost and the selling price of the item. And the selling price of the item. Full stop. Another statement about it before I explain further. It is determined by the management and the chef. It is determined by the management and the chef. Now, when we say it is determined by the management and the chef, we are saying they are the ones who will decide. But in the first statement there, tumesema the amount of food that you're going to serve your customers, depending on 2 things. 1, the cost, and 2, the selling price. How much is it and how much did it cost you? So those 2 factors will dictate how much food you are going to portion per customer. That's why sometimes people will complain that I went to that particular restaurant or that particular hotel, their food is very expensive, yet mtu hata hashibi. Now, where does those things come from? They come from the hotel is looking at what is our cost and what is our selling price. They must match these things because this is what they are selling and they have costs to incur. 1, they've incurred the material cost. And when we say material cost, we mean the cost of raw materials plus the cost of labor. They are paying people, they are paying power, they are paying water services, all those things, and they're also buying ingredients. So from selling that food, they need to recover all those costs plus make a profit. So they look at what is our cost and also what is our selling price to be able to determine so how much food are we going to be serving per person. Another subtopic. Now another item that you also need to know, standard portion cost. Standard portion cost. Sasa hii ni yenye tunafanyaga kwa menu planning. When you do the entire costing alafu na divide by 15. That is the standard portion cost. So write this. This is the cost. This is the cost of preparing and serving one portion of food item. This is the cost of preparing and serving one portion of food item according to the standard recipe. This is the cost of preparing and serving one portion of food item according to the standard recipe. According to the standard recipe. So, when you've used your standard recipe, umefanya costing, you've costed, and then you divide by 15. You are able to know one portion of food is costing me this much money. That is what we are calling a standard portion cost. So standard portion cost is coming from a standard recipe. Because that cost, we are calling it standard because each portion is going to cost you that much money to produce. Now, we write another statement. A standard portion cost is determined by dividing the sum of ingredients. Is determined by dividing the sum of ingredients cost, the sum of ingredients cost by the number of portions. The sum of ingredients cost by the number of portions, which the standard recipe yields. E.g., now in other words, what I call a standard portion cost, it is like your question in Cat 1. Cat 1 ilikuwa nimewapea swali kama hiyo yenye ilikuwa ya 8 portions and you needed to tell me what about one portion and everybody got it right. So that is what we call a standard portion cost. So e.g., if a recipe costs 150 shillings, e.g., if a recipe costs 150 shillings and yields 5 portions, if a recipe costs 150 shillings and yields 5 portions, then the standard portion cost will be then tunafanya calculation, total ingredients cost divided by number of portions. The standard portion cost will be total ingredients cost divided by number of portions. Yes, the answer is that. So in this case, tutakuwa ni 150 divided by 5, and then we get the answer is 30. The answer, okay, Sally, I have said, if a recipe costs 150 shillings to prepare and yields 5 portions, then the standard portion cost will be, na tunafaa tufanye calculation. So kuna hiyo formula, total ingredients cost divide by number of portions. Total ingredients cost divide by number of portions. So in this case, our ingredients cost ni 150 and our portions ni 5. So 150 divided by 5, and we are also going to get 30 shillings. So in this case, our standard portion cost is 30 bob. Haimaanishi utauza 30 bob. Inamaanisha cost ni 30 bob. Now on to the other thing, pricing a recipe. Pricing a recipe. I said I'm going to talk about this. How do you come up with a price? How do you come up with the price of a recipe? So pricing a recipe. Now, we are going to use, we are supposed to have an example. When if you look at my handout, you will see the example. But because I do not want to give you the same example right now, I want us to use the cost yenye tumepata hapo juu ya 30 bob. We are going to use that cost kutafuta selling price. But this is what you should know. For you to set the price of the recipe, or the price of the recipe that one person will be able to pay, or each person will be paying, lazima ukuwe umepewa a percentage, either mostly ya cost. Utakuwa umepewa percentage ya cost because what you have is cost, not price. So either utakuwa umepewa percentage ya cost ama percentage ya profit. Now, in pricing a recipe, let's write this. Food cost minus material cost is equals to gross profit. Food cost minus material cost is equals to gross profit. Full stop. Another statement. For us to price a recipe, just write that. For us to price a recipe, we must know the percentage of the cost. For us to price a recipe, we must know the percentage of the cost. So e.g., if the cost of 30 shillings, sasa ile 30 tumepata pale juu. If the cost of 30 shillings is equal to 35% or is equivalent to 35%, what is the selling price? E.g., if the cost of 30 shillings is equivalent to 35%, what is the selling price? So hiyo cost tu ni 35 na tunataka tujue selling price. Now selling price ni 100%. Lazima ikuwe 100, ndio tukitoa 100 minus 35, ile 65% tabaki hapo, that is our profit. So we do this, tufanye as a calculation now. 35% is equals to 30 shillings. What about 100%? 35% is equals to 30 bob. 100% is equals to what? So when you calculate this, you are going to take 100 divided by 35, then multiply by 30. Fanya hiyo hesabu niambie answer. 100 over 35. Hizo ni hizo percentages mbili. 100% over 35%. Then now multiply by 30 bob. We're going to get the selling price. $100 over 35 multiply by 30. 85.714. So hiyo tunaweza ita 85 shillings with 70 cents. So utaandika 85.70. So that now will be our selling price. So anytime you've been told to price the menu, na hiyo itakuja kwa production theory, you've been told to price the menu, lazima utakuwa umepewa some percentage. So kama umepewa percentage ya selling price, then that is the cost of, no, percentage ya cost. You get your cost is equivalent to that percentage, then you look for 100%. Now that one is going to give you the selling price. So now, if this person is going to price their menu, now their menu or each customer is going to pay 85 shillings and 70 cents. So that is how we price a menu. Now, write this: advantages of using standard recipes. This is a very common question. Advantages of using standard recipes. We've already defined what a standard recipe is. We've said it gives consistent quality and quantity of items. Now, advantage number one, it helps in accurate costing. It helps in accurate costing. So the costing will be very accurate all the time because it is not changing. Number two, it helps in standard buying. Helps in standard buying. Already we've said it has the quality and quantity of ingredients that you're supposed to buy. Number three, it gives a consistent yield. It gives a consistent yield. And when we say consistent yield, what are we saying? The final product will be consistent. It will be the same. It does not matter that today it has been prepared by person A, tomorrow will be prepared by person C, yesterday it was prepared by person B. They will all be similar. And similarity here ranges from the quantity, the taste, the flavor, the color, everything will be similar. Number four, there is uniformity. There is uniformity of size and quality of products. There is uniformity of size and quality of products. There is uniformity of size and quality of products. The next advantage, it results in quick production. It results in quick production. It results in quick production. Na ya mwisho, not ya mwisho, the next advantage, quick programming is easier. Quick programming is easier, so you will not waste time because quick programming is easier since each recipe, quick programming is easier since each recipe indicates the equipment and amount of time. It indicates the equipment and amount of time that each procedure requires. The amount of time that each procedure requires. when you look at the recipes za practical cookery, they tell you if kama ni chapati, rest for this number of minutes, make into balls. They are giving you procedure and what to do. Heat the saucepan, add oil, add onion, inakwambia what to do. The last advantage, they yield standard portions and sizes. So another advantage of standard recipes, they yield standard portions and sizes. So if you are like 10 of you who have ordered the same item, you will not say customer A was given a lot of food, I was given little food. It will be equal. So standard portion and sizes. On to my last bit, disadvantages of standardized recipes. So they also have some disadvantages. Disadvantages of using standardized recipes, some standard recipes. The first disadvantage, it is time consuming. It is time consuming in terms of developing. It is time consuming in terms of developing. So developing is to come up with them, first of all. So in terms of developing and training the staff to use them. In terms of developing and training the staff to use them. That is why it's usually very hard for someone who is in the industry to come back to school and then they are in the kitchen. This person is used to making something like, let's say, a cake. This person is used to baking using shortcuts. And because they know their thing, they know what they do, they come into the kitchen and now you are telling them, do not do this, follow this particular procedure. Now, to that person, following the procedure is like a torture. It's like now, unawabo. You are wasting their time because they know what they are doing. Yes, they know what they are doing, but that is not what the standard recipe says that should be done. Then another disadvantage, number 2, it is boring to keep referring to them. It is boring to keep referring to them. So you can imagine if someone works in a hotel, which might never be the case because in hotels, shortcuts are used. Now, suppose you are working in a hotel which strictly follows recipes, and you are in this one section now. Let's say you are in the saucier section. So every day you are producing soups and you are producing stews, such kind of things. And then every day you have to make brown mutton stew on a daily basis. Brown mutton stew following the same procedure, the same way, the same quantities. You're going to get bored by that routine of doing the same thing every day. Number 3, someone loses interest. So already it has gotten boring, so you lose what? You lose interest. Another disadvantage, lack of involvement. Lack of involvement by some cooks. Lack of involvement by some cooks. Now here, because you are following procedures and you know the kitchen has got sections. So you can find, if for example you keep repeating the same item, you can find someone who has not been working because their duty in the kitchen has not been captured in the menus that you've been recently preparing. So you cook every day, but there is someone whose part never comes because in that recipe their part is not there. Next, They do not encourage people to use their initiatives. They do not encourage people to use their initiatives. In other words, we are saying that standardized recipes are limiting. They limit you. They dictate what you are supposed to do, and they dictate what you are supposed to use. So they limit you from using your own initiative, using your own mind of, if I've lacked this, what am I going to use? And just using anything without first of all consulting whether you can use it. Because if you are the cook and then there is the chef who has designed it and trained you, this is how you should be cooking this every time. So the moment maybe an ingredient is lacking, you cannot just think of let me use this. You must go and ask the chef. This one is not there. So I am planning to use ABCD. Can I go ahead? And then the chef might end up telling you, no, let's wait for the supplier to deliver. This one will be delivered. So you will end up wasting time. Ya mwisho, it reduces creativity to cooks. It reduces creativity to cooks. So as a cook, you cannot bring your creativity on board because you are being limited. Whatever that you are supposed to do is written down. You are supposed to follow it. So this brings me now to the end of recipes. That is the end of recipes that I was supposed to handle today. So that is it for today. Now you can ask questions that you are having about menu. So I have said from your work, and the DFB people, I have not seen your work. You've not sent me your cards. I don't know the reasons. There are those of you who do not attend classes also. They send me their work. Now there is one thing that you are supposed to know, that if at all you are not in the ZDS system, then I have nowhere to record your marks. Or if you are in the system and your attendance does not show 75%, again, I'm not able to input the system is not able to accept your marks. So the key is attendance, making sure you attend class. There are those of you who attend for like, you come in 2 minutes, you disappear. I will mark you present, but when the system generates the reports, inakuleta kama absent. Let's say for example uliingia class mara 6 na ni hizo 6 weeks, uliingia hivyo, unaingia unatoka, I marked you present, yes, but now when the system brings in the report, tunaona imeandika 0/6, meaning you never did what? You never attended. So in this particular case, now it is upon you to decide whether to attend class, whether not to attend class. Any questions?
Which cut are you saying that was never submitted?
Cut 1 yenye nilipeana last week.
You submitted it in your email.
Did I reply to your email?
No, you didn't.
Then maybe you sent it to the wrong email, because everybody who sent me an email, I replied. I replied to each and every email. So that means I never received your work.
Let me check then.
Okay. Kuna maswali, and I've said sitaki kupata kazi ya mtu ikitoka kwa email ya mtu mwingine. Hiyo nimekataa. Do not send me somebody's work. Questions?
Ciao.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought tuko tunatuma assignment jana then cut Friday.
Okay, the cut naongea hapa ni ya nini? Ni ya menu planning, si ya production.
Oh.
Yeah, ni ya menu planning. There are also those of you who are sending me too many emails. Kama ni your plan unaipiga picha then unataka kunitumia kila picha peke yake. So you end up sending me like 7 emails, so I have to go opening each na kila iko na kamoja. Just attach all of them kwa email moja zikuje kama document moja, I'll see them. Na nimesema tusome production theory. Production theory hatuko serious. Tusome and stop copying work. Stop getting into the bracket of just discussing the work that I've given. You don't go back to the book and try to confirm what people are saying. We so long as ni so and so amesema na unamsikiaga akijibu maswali kwa class, you go and write. Whatever they have said, which is wrong. Vegetables, you guys. Vegetables, you know, most production cut 1 questions and assignment 1 questions. Okay, I know some people have not sent, but let me say this, please do some thorough work. Use your books. Use the notes that I have given you, because kama ni vegetables, I remember very well you even have a table. You have a table showing you the types of vegetables. But now the kind of things that you people are writing for me. You want to classify for me vegetables the way you used to do binomial nomenclature ya biology. Unaniandikia hapo sijui class, sijui family, surely. Hata sijui nitawafanyia nini. I don't know what to do. But what I'm saying is, go back to your production books and thoroughly read. Because production usually has a lot. As much as iko na vitu ndogo zenye tumesoma and all that, the details, and mostly exam inaulizangu huko kwa details. So please. Peppercorns ni dry grocer. Remember ziko kwa mkebe, ni dry grocer. Kwa green grocer we only do the green, the fresh vegetables. Anything kwa mkebe, dry grocer. Any questions? Let me conclusively talk about those cards once kila mtu ameshanitumia. Vegetables. Nimesema mko na shida na hiyo topic. Types of vegetables ziko hapo. How to preserve nutrients when you are cooking vegetables ziko hapo. But what did you write for me? Walnuts ziko kwa dry goods. What did you write for me? You wrote for me methods of cooking. Sijui steaming, grilling, doing what not. Hizo ndizo mliniandikia, which are wrong, very wrong. Uses of maize, uses of oats. Mukadiscuss, mukaniandikia the same answer. And I penalized all of you. It felt like just marking kazi ya mtu mmoja. So can you make sure even if you discuss, mnataka kufanya kama wale watu wa KCSE ya 2015? Or you were among them, that's where you learned that. Mkafanya sasa mwakenya ikaisha. Watu wakiiba huwa wanaiba na maswali zikuja. So I've said kwa menu planning, sasa from now on I'm going to be attaching hizo terms sasa nita attach hapa kwa ZDS. Hapo crumble tartlets tunaziserve tu kwa dessert plates ama dessert balls. Yenu sijui kama ilikuwa ya maize ama ya oats or something of the sort. Niko na production mingi zenye ziko na different questions. I think yenu ilikuwa ya oats ama wheat or something of the sort. Now, I hope you are revising. I hope you formed your own small groups za discussion, because zile maswali niko nazo zinawangoja za production. I don't know whether you'll be able to finish them. Oh, okay. Uses of soup. Uses of soup. And I said 6 uses of soup. Wengine mkaniandikia 2. Oh, ni sawa. Basi hiyo haikuwa yenu. Na ya vegetables, you need to have a question on vegetables. Classes of vegetables na ways of conserving vegetable nutrients when cooking. Yes, ilikuwa. Yes. Kwa hiyo discussion yenu yenye mlidiscuss ways of preserving nutrients kwa vegetables, mkaandika methods of cooking, mlikuwa wrong. That is very wrong. So, we are going to revise those two. We are going to revise the assignment and the CAT. Nikimalizana na kufunza. That's when I'll revise that. And I have very many other najua hukutuma na admission number. I replied to your email. Nikasema utume, saa hii naona ndio mnanitumia. Mnanitumia saa hii. So every time you are sending work, make sure iko na admission number. Make sure iko na admission number. So let me end this class. I'll send the menu, not menus. Terms za next week. Actually nitaziattach tu saa hii hapa. So make sure you look at them, make your menus. Mnaweza discuss kwa hiyo group yenu yenye huwa kwenye huwa mna discuss, but once you've discussed, make your own menus. And I said ujitrain kujitime. There are those of you who timed themselves, wakanitumia kazi mapema sana Tuesday. That is good work. The more you train yourself kujitime, the more you will not have problems when you'll be planning for the actual exam. So more about production tutaongea Friday once I have everybody's work. So but nimesema production isomwe kwa bidii. Any issue before I end the session? There are people who disappeared from class kitambo. And I'm seeing them today. Hakuna swali? Now I'm going to be forming for you discussion groups za hapa online. In the future, I'm going to be putting you in groups and then you will be presenting. So ukiwekwa kwa group, make sure you are active in that group. Usisumbue watu kwa sababu hawakuoni. So that is it now for today. See you on Friday. Production.